Alignment is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is something you return to again and again as life changes shape. The Stoics understood this deeply. They did not search for a permanent solution to existence. They built a practice of continual recalibration. This is how they remained steady in a world that never stayed still. Once you recognize that you are not behind, a subtle responsibility emerges. If no universal timeline exists, then your life is not measured against others. It is measured against your own integrity. This realization is both liberating and demanding. You can no longer hide behind comparison. You must now choose your direction deliberately. Many people fear this moment. It is easier to follow external expectations than to define internal ones. But the Stoic path was never about ease. It was about truth. And the truth is that only you can know what alignment feels like in your own body and mind. Modern psychology calls this self-determination, autonomy, competence, and relatedness. When these needs are met internally, people feel energized rather than pressured. When they are outsourced to external validation, people feel perpetually behind. Alignment begins when you ask a simple question. If no one were watching, what would I choose? This question strips away performance. It reveals authentic inclination. It does not guarantee immediate clarity, but it points in the correct direction. The Stoics trained themselves to distinguish between what was truly good and what merely appeared desirable. Wealth, status, and recognition were considered preferred indifference. Nice to have, but not essential to a good life. Character was essential. Presence was essential. Right action was essential. When you adopt this hierarchy, comparison collapses. If the true measure is character, then no one can outrun you. No one can take your place. No one can live your virtues on your behalf. This shift removes envy, not by forcing gratitude, but by changing what you value. You stop wanting what others have and start valuing how you live. This is alignment. The mind that no longer envies also no longer rushes. It understands that timing differs for each life. Some seeds sprout quickly. Others grow roots first. Both are necessary. Both are right. The monks taught that impatience is distrust in the unfolding of life. Stoicism teaches the same. When you trust that your path is unfolding as it should, urgency fades. Action remains, but panic disappears. As alignment strengthens, you begin to feel time as spacious. You no longer experience days as races. You experience them as fields of opportunity. You do what must be done, not what must be proven. This shift changes how you set goals. Instead of chasing outcomes to validate worth, you choose actions that express values. You work not to become enough, but because working well is part of who you are. Psychologically, this removes performance anxiety. When identity is no longer tied to achievement, failure becomes feedback rather than verdict. This is how aligned people remain resilient. The Stoics practiced premeditation of adversity. They imagined setbacks, delays, losses, and criticism. Not to become negative, but to become unafraid. When fear of falling behind dissolves, freedom expands. Fear of being behind is ultimately fear of being unworthy. Stoicism dismantles this fear by rooting worth in virtue rather than comparison. Worth is not earned through milestones. It is expressed through conduct. This is why aligned people move with quiet confidence. Not arrogance, not superiority, just self-trust. They no longer need to announce progress. They simply proceed. Others sense this. Aligned individuals are not pulled into frantic races. They choose partnerships, projects, and paths that match their tempo. This creates a life that feels coherent rather than scattered. As alignment deepens, decision-making becomes simpler. You no longer ask, will this make me look successful? You ask, does this match who I am? This single filter eliminates confusion. The mind that lives by this filter experiences fewer internal conflicts, fewer debates, fewer second guesses. Calm becomes structural rather than emotional. The Stoics describe this as harmony between reason and action. When what you think and what you do match, inner friction disappears. Friction is what makes life feel heavy and behind. Alignment also changes how you handle external pressure. Deadlines, expectations, and competition remain, but they are no longer internalized as identity threats. They become logistical realities, not existential judgments. This distinction matters. Many people suffer not from events, but from the meanings they attach to events. Alignment allows you to assign accurate meaning, not exaggerated meaning. The modern world sells urgency. Don't miss out. Limited time. Everyone else is doing it. These messages are designed to trigger fear of being behind. An aligned mind sees through this instantly. The Stoic is not immune to influence. They are simply selective. They examine impressions before accepting them. This examination protects inner pace. As alignment stabilizes, you begin to experience a different kind of ambition. Not frantic striving, but steady building. Not comparison, but contribution. You focus on offering value rather than outrunning others. This ambition is sustainable. It does not burn the nervous system. It does not require constant external validation. It is quiet, durable, and deeply satisfying. Modern research confirms this. Intrinsic motivation outlasts extrinsic motivation. People who act from internal alignment persist longer, recover faster, and experience greater well-being. The Stoics discovered this long ago. They taught that peace follows when your actions express your nature, not someone else's. Eventually, you realize that many of your previous goals were borrowed, not wrong, but misassigned. You release them without bitterness. You simply redirect energy. This redirection is not loss. It is correction. As alignment matures, gratitude becomes natural. Not forced appreciation, but recognition that you are exactly where you need to be to take your next step. Not behind. Not ahead. Here. This presence becomes your home base. Wherever you go, it goes with you. External changes no longer uproot your sense of self. The Stoics called this ataraxia. Inner tranquility, not numbness, but steady clarity. With this clarity, relationships change. You no longer compare your life to others' lives. You meet them where they are. You appreciate differences. You learn without envy. You support without self-erasure. The world stops being a competition and becomes a shared unfolding. This perspective reduces loneliness. You no longer feel left behind. You feel part of a larger process. Alignment also transforms how you see the future. Instead of a finish line, it becomes a horizon. You move toward it, but you never arrive, and that is not failure. It is life. The Stoics understood that existence is process, not destination. Trying to arrive is the root of feeling behind. Accepting process dissolves it. As this understanding deepens, peace becomes ordinary. Not a special state, not a reward. Simply the absence of internal war. The mind that once believed it was behind now sees that it was never in a race. It was simply listening to the wrong crowd. Now it listens inward, it acts outward, and it rests in between. This is alignment. This is freedom. This is the end of comparison, and the beginning of true life. There is a quiet anxiety that has become so common it now feels normal. The feeling that you are late, that others are ahead, that somewhere, somehow, you missed an invisible deadline for success, happiness, love, purpose, or stability. No one announced this deadline, yet most people live as if it exists. This is not reality. It is alignment loss. The Stoics never spoke of being ahead or behind. They spoke of living according to nature, meaning living in harmony with one's own path. one's own capacity, and one's own present duty. When a person lives aligned, time pressure dissolves. When a person lives misaligned, even abundance feels insufficient. Modern life amplifies comparison. Social media, professional competition, public achievement displays, and constant updates turn life into a scoreboard. The mind begins tracking imaginary races that were never chosen. This tracking becomes exhausting, and exhaustion becomes the false evidence that something is wrong with you. The truth is simpler. You are not behind. You are carrying a map that is not yours. Most timelines people follow are inherited. From parents, from culture, from peers, from advertising, from stories about what a successful life looks like. These borrowed timelines rarely match individual temperament, pace, or purpose. Misalignment begins the moment you start running a race designed for someone else. The Stoics taught that nature does not hurry. Trees grow at different speeds. Rivers flow in different directions. Stars rise at different hours. Only the human mind invented the idea that there is one correct schedule for all lives. This invention produces unnecessary suffering. Psychology confirms this. When people measure themselves against external standards that do not match internal values, motivation decreases, anxiety increases, and self-trust weakens. The mind knows when it is being forced into the wrong shape. Feeling behind is not a sign of laziness. It is a sign of misfit. The Stoic reset for comparison begins with one essential recognition. You do not control the pace of others, the timing of events, or the unfolding of opportunity. You control only your present choices. Measuring yourself against external clocks is therefore irrational. It assigns authority to what you cannot govern. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that everything unfolds as it must. Not in mystical destiny, but in natural causality. Trying to force life into a preconceived schedule is like commanding the tide. It produces frustration, not progress. When you release the belief that life must follow a specific timeline, relief appears immediately. Not because goals disappear, but because self-condemnation dissolves. You stop attacking yourself for not being somewhere you were never meant to be yet. Misalignment often shows itself through chronic urgency. The sense that you must hurry, achieve, catch up, or prove. Urgency narrows perception. It shortens patience. It creates tunnel vision. And in tunnel vision, wrong paths look correct simply because they are fast. The Stoics valued patience not as passive waiting, but as strategic timing. Acting too early can be as harmful as acting too late. The wise mind moves when movement is appropriate, not when anxiety demands action. Modern culture rewards speed, but speed without direction leads to exhaustion. Alignment, not acceleration, determines fulfillment. When you move in the right direction, slow progress feels satisfying. When you move in the wrong direction, even success feels empty. The monks who withdrew into monasteries were not escaping life. They were realigning it. They removed external pressures to rediscover internal rhythm. Once rhythm was rediscovered, action became harmonious rather than frantic. Modern psychology calls this self-concordant goal alignment. When goals match intrinsic values, energy increases. When goals conflict with intrinsic values, burnout follows. The feeling of being behind is often the mind's signal that you are pursuing something misaligned. Comparison culture hides this truth. It tells you to chase what others chase. It tells you to value what others value. It tells you that similarity equals success. But humans are not identical instruments. We are distinct expressions of potential. The Stoics taught that virtue is the only universal measure, not wealth, status, achievement, or recognition. Virtue means acting wisely, courageously, justly, and temperately in each moment. This measure is available to everyone, regardless of external progress. When you measure yourself by virtue rather than outcome, comparison loses power. You can always act wisely now. You can always speak truthfully now. You can always choose integrity now. No one can be ahead of you in this moment. This redefinition changes everything. Success stops being a distant destination. It becomes a present posture. You are no longer chasing life. You are living it. The anxiety of being behind often intensifies when people see curated versions of others' lives. The Stoics warned about illusion. They reminded themselves that they never see the full picture. Judging your worth against incomplete information is irrational. Modern psychology confirms this. Social comparison based on partial information produces distorted self-evaluation. People compare their internal struggles to others' external performances. This is not comparison. It is self-deception. When you see someone ahead, you rarely see their private fears, doubts, compromises, or costs. You see outcomes without context. Stoicism teaches you to suspend judgment until the whole is known, and the whole is never known. Thus, the Stoic mind refuses to declare itself behind based on limited data. It remains skeptical of appearances. It trusts inner observation more than external projection. Another source of timeline anxiety is the belief that life is a linear ladder. Childhood, education, career, success, stability, legacy. This ladder model does not reflect reality. Lives unfold in cycles, detours, pauses, returns, and reinventions. Nature does not grow in straight lines, nor do meaningful lives. The Stoics viewed life as a series of roles. At each stage, your task is simply to play the role given well. When the role changes, the task changes. There is no universal script. You are not behind if you are fulfilling the role of your present season. A seed is not behind a tree. A winter is not behind a summer. Each phase contains its own purpose. Misalignment occurs when you demand fruits in winter. When you accept your current season, urgency relaxes. Action becomes appropriate. You move when movement is needed and rest when rest is required. This rhythm is alignment. The mind that understands seasonality does not panic at delay. It trusts unfolding. The Stoics practiced this trust daily. They reminded themselves that life is change. Attempting to freeze it into one fixed schedule is futile. Modern therapy mirrors this insight. Psychological well-being increases when people accept life transitions rather than resisting them. Acceptance is not giving up. It is removing friction. As alignment returns, the mind becomes less noisy. Thoughts of catching up fade. Thoughts of being left behind dissolve. There is only the present task. This does not remove ambition. It refines it. You still build, grow, and strive, but without self-punishment. You work because it is meaningful, not because you are afraid. Fear-driven effort drains. Alignment-driven effort sustains. The Stoic reset for comparison also involves gratitude. Not forced positivity, but recognition of what already exists. Gratitude grounds you in sufficiency rather than deficiency. When you see what is present, you stop obsessing over what is missing. The mind that recognizes sufficiency does not feel behind. It feels grounded. This grounding allows you to appreciate others' success without self-judgment. Their progress does not diminish yours. Their path does not threaten yours. The Stoics train themselves to rejoice in others' good fortune. This is impossible when you believe in a single shared race. It becomes natural when you understand alignment. Eventually, you begin to experience time differently. You stop counting years as achievements. You start experiencing years as expressions. Life stops being something you must catch up with. It becomes something you participate in. And in this participation, a quiet realization arises. You were never behind. You were simply walking a path that was not yours. And now you have begun to return.